After a backlash from all sides, BBC Studios has withdrawn plans to add adverts to podcasts in the UK. This is sort of off of BBC, not on BBC Sounds, but on platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Jane, this felt like a sort of slight misstep by the BBC at the time. It sort of came from nowhere. Are they right to go, oh, actually, yes, maybe we shouldn't have announced that?
The big thing for me was that I think this shows how very difficult it is for the BBC to make money without a licence fee model. I mean, you know, over the many, many years, I've personally been thinking about BBC funding, you know, the pressure on them to make money, to charge. I mean, even when, you know, you're overseas and accessing BBC content, there's a criticism of them charging anything for BBC studio content overseas. And then I can see why the commercial radio, obviously, and podcast groups absolutely did not want this to happen. And I think the BBC did it in a very BBC way, which was, we're going to do this. Yeah. No consultation, no sense of why it might be really, really difficult. But as I say, you know, they need to really think about how are they going to make this. Was not the way, but it did strike me that it's always very difficult for them to work in another commercial area and not be incredibly criticised for it.
I mean, I thought it was strange. They could have, it wouldn't make loads of money. It would make some money, but the BBC content, a lot of newsy content, it's not the stuff that people really want to advertise in. And two, they've sort of, had they kept their powder dry for licence fee negotiation, actually you could have added it into the next term. I think there's some interesting stuff this week. BBC Studios have got a new F1 show, I think, coming out that's not going to be a PSB BBC and it's just more a commercial thing. It's very akin to UK TV. I mean, UK TV owned by the BBC, they commission new programmes that sits on ad-funded channels. Is it trying to mix the streams when it goes a bit wrong?
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes it feels like the BBC will focus on one criticism at a time. So that's, you're not competitive enough, you're not commercial enough. Here's us being commercial. And then kind of forget that everyone else is going, yeah, but you're this huge beast in the media market. Anyway, you put a foot down is going to squash somebody. And I think it is just that sort of trying to balance out, whereas at least UK TV is sort of hived off to one side, isn't it? Which obviously BBC Studios is a slightly separate entity as well. But yeah, I think it is just a tricky one. Whichever way they move, they're going to squash somebody.
Yeah. Well, the licence fee conversations never stop. We will return to it.
As you say, though, if they've just rolled it into this massive debate they're about to have, it may not seem like such a random decision.
Yeah. Also, can we stop BBC commissioners appearing on BBC podcasts extolling the virtues of BBC Sounds? It's a terrible creative. It should never have been there. Maybe we can stop and do something else.